keep a live chat going, and keep my camera from freezing. So that's been fun.
We're gonna have to try a lot of stuff today.
This is. There's a lot of moving parts for this broadcast.
Best of luck, my
that.
friend. Best of luck.
Godspeed,
That's all I'm gonna.
sir.
Godspeed. Yes, definitely.
What is Godspeed? I don't know. It's like 45.
It's about 40, yeah. Depending on the day of the week.
And let's retweet that. And let's transition. Let's see if we can keep these things rolling.
I like the new setup, by the way. A lot nicer.
I mean, I'm trying to do a little sprucing, a little cleaning.
Well, I'm also talking like table-wise, connection, setup. I mean, from the last time you saw us together, this was definitely a much, I would say the Studio 2.0.
Yeah.
Definitely 2.0. Not a 1.5, a 2.0. Definitely a nice rehash.
This is like 2.5.
2. What?
New table.
Definitely, yeah.
Just some new trim on the sides, so some color accents on the wall.
I saw the foam. Yeah, no, definitely. It actually fits perfectly. Now that I'm looking at that little flippy camera, which we definitely enjoy. But yeah.
Right, our articulated LCD. No, it just it was a new year, new me.
I like the new too.
And just thought it was worth, kind of sprucing up a few things. So I've been on a tear recently talking about things like mobile gaming, right? Yes. I put out a video recently, some of my disappointment with the platforms that we use. So I think there's a fair criticism out there for people, mobile games suck, right? You see a lot of that microtransactions and, buy these crystals and gems and jewels, and you have so many paywalls, and it's not exactly how we want to game. It's predatory
ruins the
business
experience.
practices.
Yeah, it ruins the experience and the gratification you got from basically achieving a goal and reaching and unlocking something, as opposed to just like, well, I could just pay.
Yeah, like in Star Wars, you want that feel of accomplishment for the grind.
For the hours that you spend playing the game, right? Because if you don't do it, it really translates right one-to-one almost with the experience. If you don't work for something hard enough, you don't appreciate it hard enough. If it comes too easy, is it really...
The joke for me, of course, is we're talking about Battlefront, was EA saying, well, you need to appreciate the grind. You need that sense of accomplishment, when basically they were just trying to sell loot boxes. So in doing some of those editorials, one of the things that I keep coming back to, because I am definitely a little bit more of a hardware guy than a software guy, is this notion of the gaming phone getting caught up in some of the problems with the overall market, right? Like, I feel like more blame should probably be handed to Apple and handed to Google, because they have created game stores that encourage a certain type of developer to try and extract as much wealth out of the player base as they can, because they also get a cut of every single transaction that happens. So Google really doesn't have an incentive to fix that platform. But then you go and you pick up some of these devices that are sort of badged for gaming. You recently spent some time with the ROG phone.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the Razer phone, exactly. Yeah, those are. I mean, they're great. They're great phones to start with. I mean, if you have the right expectation of what you're getting out of the phone, I think they're great from the hardware. The OS that we have on them are they're still a step behind, and I wish they were getting updated. But that's just me nitpicking.
No, I don't. I think that's a fair criticism. It's the same kind of criticism that we would levy at any manufacturer, like my beloved LG. You don't count on great software support for some of this awesome hardware.
They're consistent with their tradition, which is weird. Like beyond like maybe one update, slightly update from the moment you open your phone out of the box. I don't really expect things from LG, and even if there is any updates. So I was actually very surprised when I was watching one of your other streams where you talked about it. I think it was Monday's stream when you mentioned that, your LG is still actually, overall it's not bad as far as security.
Current, yeah.
But still no 60 frames per second, 4K, which I received on mine on my T-Mobile unit, and I would have expected the unlocked one to be like ahead, right?
Yeah, but rocking technically the Project Fi version of the G7 meant that it seemed to leave the reservation faster than anything else.
Yeah. So, but things like that, like, features, things that, we should expect, because I mean, we're getting 4K 60 frames per second from almost anything that runs the Snapdragon 845. It's almost like, man, everything.
Everything.
Yeah. it's everything. I'm trying to figure out like a few phones maybe, but still, I mean, even the OnePlus starts off with 4K 60. So it's, to me, not to have that on a I look at this as a production type of a phone.
Totally.
The hardware we have is amazing. We have the right set of hardware. The software just
Totally.
It's that battle. It will always be that way. I love LG for their hardware. I love for their for what they try to do, and then they just, they like right there.
But we're not talking about LGs because LG doesn't make a gaming phone.
No, but if you do, we will definitely. No.
Well, I mean, we'd review it, and in fact, it's one of those things. Like I actually do count that as one of the drawbacks of the LG platform is whatever they've done with their custom software and their game mode.
Yeah, so
it's all about power savings.
Exactly,
it's not about actually extracting performance, so it gets in the way more than actually giving the player a benefit for trying to experience that.
And I think it's, but you're right. So realistically thinking about what the gaming phone category, because it's a category now. We're starting to see more and more companies releasing. Like we saw it at CES. There was the Red Magic Mars that was going to come out. That's a gaming phone as well. And I think it seems like for the most part, most companies that are releasing gaming phones are going with the RGB backs. They're trying to go customizations. They're giving you that feel that you get from your PC in a mobile experience.
Don't you feel like they're a couple years out of date?
I just felt
but it's what I actually like about the Razer phone is that Razer seems to be doing a better job of keeping up with their laptop aesthetic, which is calmed way the hell down. Razer, even from my it's in the other room. I have a Blade 14, and I love my Blade 14, but it's just on that first transition from getting away from looking Mountain Dew fueled. Like I eat Doritos for breakfast.
No, I know,
right?
but your ports, your USB-A ports are green.
Totally.
So you have to get that. So you get that Mountain Dew.
But the shell looks like a MacBook.
Yes.
It doesn't have funky panels and Stealth Fighter edges and weird plastic
like it's
clips
about to take off.
None of that. And I feel like the Razer phone is actually doing a better job of in keeping with a company aesthetic. Whereas
clean.
The ROG phone looks like ROG from 2 years ago. So, not like the Zephyrus today.
No.
Like the Zephyrus today is an amazing looking laptop. But the mothership looks like some weird funky alien thing.
It's almost like the designer said, "Hey, can you send me one of your motherboards? I'd like to see on how your heatsink separation and things are there. I'd like to mirror that on a phone." I'm gonna say that initially when I saw the ROG phone, I liked it. I saw it at IFA for the first time. I held it in my hand. I felt like, wow, this is a solid phone. It looks good. And the performance was actually pretty decent. 90 frames per second wasn't too bad, and you can go consistent or 60 frames per second gaming, wireless connection over to the TV, playing. Everything was smooth. I liked it. I got in the house and I started to play with it, and then at that point, obviously, I was already spent enough time with the Razer 2.
Yeah.
And then going at 120. There's a big design. It's like if you like it, you really, really like it, and if you want something that's just clean and looks really. Razer did such a good job from the 1 to the 2.
Yeah,
it was just that going with glass, going with the RGB coloring. I like that.
I don't love glass. I would have been fine with.
Well, so for me, it's because I wanted wireless charging. I wanted to see that in there, and they did include that. The customizable RGB, but the glass it's clean.
No, I mean it's a clean looking phone, but then I have to use like this.
Yeah, well,
because the metal sides, even though they're flat and they give you something to hold on to. This is still one of the most slippery devices I've ever held. It's terrifying to take this out.
I put the phone in one spot and I'm shooting, and and the phone is running out of shot. I'm like, where are you going?
I use it as a level because I didn't tighten something on my standing desk, and so now I can tell if something's off by putting my Razer phone down and watching it scooch.
Slightly run away.
I need to angle this side up because the Razer phone's going to slide off that side of the table.
It's an extra feature.
Damn gravity.
It came in the box. You just didn't know. Now you do. But I definitely, I'm liking the fact that we're starting to see more gaming centric game systems that are allowing us to overclock our CPU. That's the other thing that I really like. ROG did a little bit better job giving you the understanding of how much you're able to push your CPU to, because you saw what the frequency and the temps are. With Cortex, you're not getting all of the. I don't think you get all the specifics, right? Overclockers and people that like to play on PCs, if you've ever overclocked, you do that. You know how much you like to know the numbers. You want the specific digit. You want to know that temp exactly when it crosses 40 degrees, if it does.
What exactly is the voltage that you're at for the RAM?
Are you really overclocking, or are you just saying that you are? Is your system really running at almost 3 gigahertz?
Although I had to take a step back, and you're like, I don't hate on software overclockers as much as I used to.
No, what? I loved AMD for their work as well. The fact that they came out of the box saying, look, dude, we're going to create some of the best CPUs and we're going to let you just play with it. Buy the X series and just overclock, till to your happiness. Just understand it will crap at some point, but that's when you know your limit, right?
Right.
That's how you know you did your job. It's when you hit that limit and your system freezes and starts rebooting.
Because back in the day, it used to be you'd hit that limit and then something would sizzle.
Yeah.
So
No,
we're doing way better now.
Yeah, they've done much better. I think ASUS has been doing a really good job with their auto overclocking system in their motherboards.
Well, that's why I've kind of backed off a little.
Yeah, it's
gotten way better, and you still have granular controls, but
exactly
you can achieve most of the same with a couple mouse clicks now, as opposed to having
it's simpler. You don't have to have a math degree or an engineering degree to figure out how to be able to set the voltage, or even go into your BIOS and setting everything and overclock and underclock. None of those things are necessary, but I still, you can still definitely enjoy having up to 4.1 on an 1800X AMD. Out of the box is 3.8, so you'll see and you'll benefit from it.
Yeah, I've been kind of surprised by the commentary on what is now what I would consider our second proper year of a niche of phones.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've got our second proper year of, or actually multiple years now, but a second proper year of recovery for BlackBerry running Android, keyboards on phones.
Yeah.
That idea is starting to kind of make, I've actually been seeing BlackBerries in the wild.
I saw somebody post about it. Yeah, some of the Unlocker, David Kogan, and saw somebody with a key too.
There was a nurse at my daughter's pediatrician's office, and you could not stop raving about how much he loved his BlackBerry. And you're like, there's a tiny little portion of the population that this is the exact right fit for. So I've been very surprised by some of the commentary on gaming phones. I went back and watched some of those to prep for this. I went back and watched some of the early first look videos and reviews for the Razr 2 and for the ROG.
Yeah.
And just YouTubers tripping over themselves to do but what even makes a gaming phone? It's got the Qualcomm 845. It's the same as this. I don't understand. I mean, you know what you have to put on that persona? I'm a general consumer who's never going to hold one of these, so I don't understand. But you're the reviewer.
You're supposed to be able to.
So you should be able to analyze and deliver, because.
Well, explain why is it considered a gaming phone? Why is front-facing speakers something that you really should care about when you're trying to play a game, especially stereos front-facing speakers, not just the fact that you have one, because we've seen some on Motorola phones where they give you the the earpieces and the same thing as your speaker.
And I don't know what your experiences have been, but a lot of the companies that were doing well with that, I've been disappointed in the last year. Like for audio, Huawei started with that great main speaker earpiece, and I thought that really added to the audio experience, but on my Mate 20, it's not as good as it used to be.
I felt like the P20 Pro did a better job with the speakers as far as the
I
audio
agree.
came out of it. I think
totally.
It came out better.
Completely.
I'm not sure if it's
But the Mate should be the phone that does all of those things, not the P. The P should be the fashion phone that comes out at the beginning.
I was going to say, and hopefully we're at the cusp of the P30 at some point. But the only thing I have to say is when I want to play a game, I don't think of using it, and even though it's a great phone, the Mate 20 Pro or even the Mate 20 are great phones. They're running great chipsets.
Yeah.
I don't consider them as my gaming phones. I don't feel like I'm getting that right experience. When you want to play a video game on a PC, you're sitting on the PC, you get your headphones, you get your keyboard, your mouse set up, you're setting up correctly, you get the gaming monitor, all of that stuff, and you get yourself in that mode.
Yeah.
It's a mode. You have to be able to basically just zone everything outside, just turn off everything and play. When I'm playing games on my Mate 20 Pro, I feel like it's more casual gaming. Like if I'm sitting waiting for something, let me fire up. There's a game called Alone, coincidentally. But it's just.
But we'll play it together.
We'll play it together. It's one of those. I like it, but I feel like you need front-facing speakers. You need that immersive experience. You need a decent-sized display, and you need gaming tools built in to be able to also turn off certain things that will interrupt your gaming.
Right.
It's like when you get a call in the middle of us doing something.
Totally.
So all of that has to be paid attention to, and most manufacturers don't. They always focus on, like you said, fashion. How is this a lifestyle type of phone? That's really what they focus on.
Well, I mean, not to say that Razr isn't kind of a lifestyle brand of its own. It's just a lifestyle built on some expectations.
It's becoming
that are outside
more
the
of a
norm.
lifestyle when you consider. Yeah, you're right. If you want a gaming PC or you want a Razr PC, there is the Lamborghini of the.
Right.
I totally with you. But I think what they did is they learned from their first generation of the Razr phone, which I loved, is that they answered what people wanted.
Yeah.
The number one thing a lot of people wanted.
to pivot for some of the general consumer concerns. But I still felt like that flew in the face of a lot of the commentary that we got of like, you know what I'm going to do that's clever? For my Razer phone review, I'm going to review it as a non-gamer. And like how many videos we saw or how many, high-minded pieces we saw, because that to me is the same thing as saying like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to review a Pixel and then never let Google push a software update to my phone. So I'm going to review a phone like a general consumer who never updates their phones or use Night Sight. Why would I use Night Sight? I'm not a photographer.
It's too far. It's too deep into the settings.
Is basically because again that to me is like we can accept that they did make some changes to address lifestyle, quality of life, they phone use, but there's still an obvious demographic target and an obvious argument being made. This is,
I mean, like I said, it's definitely targeted to a specific group that loves this type of stuff. I mean, like I said, we can see the phone now. I mean, I think it's on AT&T, right? Because they released it on AT&T. They did the support for Verizon. They jumped in. Like I said, for me, when I saw what they did with the 2, I was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, this is almost like OnePlus kind of stuff to a certain point.
Yeah.
And to a certain point.
They got real close for a second gen because it took OnePlus a lot longer to make that same.
They not only listened, they implemented, they updated, they stuck with their design. It still has that very, I would say, almost like unique, iconic look. And it's because when you see it, you know it's a Razer. There's no question about it. And of course, they give me RGB coloring. That's to me. I wanted that out of the first one.
RGB all the things, right? I turned it off on mine.
Dang it. But I don't think we can be friends anymore, but it's okay.
We can. I'll turn it back on. We can be friends.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So
I'm sorry about that part. But yeah.
We've got from Juarez Amir Mohammed, who's getting roasted here. Actually, quite a few YouTubers, I would say, I think fell into that trap of I'm going to do something different.
It's because you got
sidestepped an actual review to cherry pick. These are the things that make it just like any other phone, and that's why you should buy any other phone. Like if you go into the review with the conclusion like that, then I feel like you miss out on what actually made this device, or the number of people who are like, "Oh, the camera's garbage," and it's not. The camera app definitely needs some work, and will probably never get a proper update. But there are any number of other camera apps that you can install.
Say a Gcam app port over.
Most of my Night Sight photos have been taken from the Razer phone, and they look just the same as what they'd look like on a Pixel.
It's the camera. So I've had the phone since the beginning, and the camera app itself has improved quite a bit. We've seen many updates that were pushed specifically.
Did you see the low light rear camera selfie I shared?
Yeah.
So rear shot. I mean, I'm not looking at the screen. I don't know if I'm even in focus or whatever, but like that's one of the best low light rear camera selfies I've ever pulled off from the Razer phone's stock camera app.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Razer's actually been really good as far as updates. It's not a phone that you just release and forgot about. I've received at least maybe 3 to 4 updates. I'm still waiting for Pi. That's my thing though. But
actually, you know what? I'm not. But I'll come back to that.
We'll come back to Pi. Yeah. But the reason why I'm waiting for Pi is because when I spoke to them at the launch event, they're like, by the end of 2018, we should have a beta for Pi. We should be able to get something.
Didn't happen.
No. Well, ROG did the same thing. ROG said they were going to release it by the end of the year.
But Pi is proving to be harder than I think a lot of the specialty manufacturers.
And I think what if they decide to stay with Oreo and they stick with it, just make sure that we keep getting the security patch updates and make sure that we're getting improvements in the camera, which I think they've been doing a great job of. And that's one of the things I love about it. They listen, they follow through, and they're updating their devices. I mean, it is basically their flagship of a phone. And I love the fact that it's just... You have to play with the phone. I don't know how to explain it. If you have a chance to be able to check out the phone, go into your AT&T store, or if you have an opportunity to see somebody that's playing with it, play a little bit, listen to some music, just try out a game, or even try to fire up some of the UI. The launcher is super customizable. It's my favorite launcher.
Yeah, it's Nova
Prime.
Nova's great
on a phone. Yeah. Like out of the box,
and for like we've been flipping out about Samsung getting their new UI.
Yeah,
finally
the One UI. Yeah, the One UI is starting to push.
And there are so many good ideas from One UI that I've been doing on Nova. The whole notion of trying to pull everything lower. I've got gestures from my home screen so I can pull the notification shade without reaching the top of the screen. All of those things, enthusiasts, if you're watching a video like this, we've been doing that.
No.
But Samsung finally caught on, so I'm hoping that'll put some pressure on Google to really rethink some of their strategy, because I feel Apple fell into that trap too, where on iOS you've got so much of the old home button idea now trying to mix in gestures and how do I move, and if I swipe from here I get one thing, but if I swipe the same gesture from here I get something different. I think that's a mess. I think that's really messy.
I personally like OnePlus's implementation of gestures
better. I like
Much
that better
better.
than Google's.
If all of the ones on the market, I love it when I get calls in the middle of it never fails. Every time we have a call, this time's from New York. I'm not sure.
Hey, New York.
How you
Glad
doing?
you're watching.
Thank
So
you.
while he does that, we did get a comment here. Mr. Carroll Ware, what makes a gaming phone a gaming phone? RAM and how much? Processor, battery size, screen resolution, storage speed and size, dual speakers, and a headphone jack, which would put the Razer phone out of consideration.
I may have to take this.
Are you going to have to take this?
I'll see if they call one more time. It's
Make them leave a message. We're
that's
in the
they're
middle
not.
of something
Yeah, I
right
know.
now. We're
We'll
doing
see-
this
we'll
live.
see what happens. Yeah,
we're
no,
doing this
definitely.
live.
Yeah.
If he goes, I'll try and fire up some gaming footage, and you can watch me fail at Alien Blackout or something like that.
Oh, dude, yeah, we got to get some gaming. So yeah, we got to talk games.
But the thing that I think has been, because to thank you for the comment, Mr. Carroll Ware, I think that's another thing worth commenting on is once we had this big push of ROG was making their announcement, Razer Phone 2 was making their announcement.
Yeah.
For the OnePlus 6T, OnePlus back often said, we've made a phone that's good for gaming. We don't think that there's value in the market in making a gaming phone. And I think that's an important distinction because I agree with it.
Okay.
I went through this transition where the Mate 10 was my gaming phone because at the time it had just leapfrogged.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Mate 9 was there before.
Yeah. So the battery life and then the Kirin processors had just leapfrogged what Qualcomm was doing, and I was getting better performance with better battery life. So that was the transition. Then I went to the OnePlus 6, not the before with the 6T, and the OnePlus 6 became my gaming phone because it was way more powerful. Then we got Pi. And Pi subtly eroded some of that performance advantage on the OnePlus 6. So if I go and run all of my benchmarks, the numbers are fine.
Yeah.
But little things like video rendering took a small but replicatable hit. The image stabilization, all of the gaming things. Pi seems to suck just a little bit of life out of it. So I'm actually kind of fine if the gaming phone can keep up with security but doesn't rush into Pi.
I think you're right. If they focus on user experience, that's the thing. It has to be by design, right? It's not a race to get to the latest version.
Right.
For me, though, it was just more of a, discussion going on. You're releasing a phone at the end of 2018. Pi is originally already out. Have you considered what's the plans? Why are you releasing it with last year's OS? It's more of that conversation. And it was more of the, no, we're shooting for it by the end of 2018. We'll have a beta. We'll have something out. And then, we're at the end of January. Actually, we're in February now.
They have been kind of radio silent about
it. They kind of went down, which is fine. For me, honestly, as long as the user experience, the gaming experience, I want to see more 120 frames per second games, optimized games on the Razer phone. I want to be able to see, some of the really, really good games just take full advantage of that display.
Totally.
Because if you don't, if you're not running it at 120, I feel like you're missing out.
Well, and also
that to me,
don't you think it's kind of silly that they don't have that sort of intro to the product? Like, how many manufacturers do that? Like, oh, you're setting up your phone. These are the things that you can do with it. Like, I went into the display and I'm like, this doesn't look that amazing. Oh, well, it's at 60 frames per second. Let me go in there and fix some things. But
and Samsung does the exact same thing. They set their phones to 1080p, not QHD. It's a QHD display.
But no. Not out of the box. And how many people even think to check those things? When they
battery
pick those?
savings. It's
of
back
course.
to the battery. Yeah, they're trying to extend the length of the battery, and I think I'm hoping to see more phones have like 4,000 milliamp battery because you start off with 4,000, you don't really worry too much about the battery.
Right.
It's not a race on how to extend that. You're going to be able to get a solid day out of it. And
if you're, I'm also a grown-up, so if I want to set everything to its max performance and I know I'm going to tank part of that battery, then I can do that too.
Yeah, and it has a fast-charging battery too, which is really nice.
My experiences with that, especially anything kind of Qualcomm-based, is like it's good, but it's not like Huawei or
no.
Oppo
I wouldn't dare to say Mate 20 Pro or even Oppo, Super VOOC charging the brand new VOOC. Like that's crazy. 31 minutes.
Right.
3,600 milliamp battery almost. It's a ridiculous.
Like, I'm afraid to look at it because, like, there's so much juice going through that thing so fast. But the fact that they can do it and keep it cool is remarkable.
Reasonably cool. The thermals on this crosses almost about 100 when I'm trying to charge from 0.
Have you tried plugging a fast charger into an iPhone?
No, I've never.
Oh, it is like the most old school. Let's just jam as much voltage into this thing as we can, and the battery just cooks itself. Well, there's actually a part of me that I feel it's responsible of Apple not to put a fast charger in the box, because that's how hot this thing runs when you try and do it with just like a tablet charger.
Well, yeah, because you're actually trying. There's a
like SuperVOOC gets warm, but not nearly like older style.
When you try to do faster on the older ones, exactly.
Voltage and wattage manipulation.
I hope that we get better at it. Qualcomm has some ways to go where comparing to even, I mean, actually with the McLaren edition, we went to 30 watts.
Yeah.
So we went faster even with Qualcomm on, I mean, it's not VOOC, but you know, at some point maybe the 7 will have something faster. I'm hoping.
Oh, well, I mean, they'll have to if they have the slider. I hate that so much. But no, I that you know, tying it all the way back, and thank you for kind of circling us back there. That notion of a phone that can game versus a gaming phone.
Yeah.
Because I think the OnePlus 6 and the OnePlus 6T completely exemplifies a high-performance handset that is good at gaming.
Yeah.
But it doesn't push us over into a gaming phone. In much the same way, like, you know, there are plenty of laptops you can play games on.
Oh, no, yeah.
But there's no market difference when you move over to a product that was built specifically to achieve that purpose.
It is definitely a... You're right. And I think that's the beauty of the OnePlus ecosystem. But I found it interesting that even at the launch event of the Razr 2, the OnePlus 6 was benchmarked against it.
Yeah.
So they realized, Razr realizes that people do like to play games on some of the other devices. And, you know, the example will be here with the McLaren. We have 10 gigs of RAM on this, and we have, you know, some of the fastest processors, but it's still not marketed as a gaming phone.
Right.
You know, and 8 gigs, I mean, obviously 8 gigs is way overkill to what you need. But, you know...
Because like when I game, I like to run like 6 games at a time with 4 social media networks.
That's exactly how.
And then cycle through them as fast as I possibly can.
And make sure that they're all still in memory.
Because that's why I need all that RAM.
I tried doing that. It didn't work. Let me know how that works.
I hate those speedrun benchmarks. I'm not a fan.
It's a load time. That's all it is. It's like how fast can it load and in reality, in a vacuum, when you're running things, when you're playing with your phone, you won't even notice it. It's, you know, it's a comparison, and maybe some people will like it. They'll like to feel better about their purchase or something like that. I think it may be part of that is if people that have already owned the phone and they want to be, you know, that purchase.
They want to be impressed, kind of.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, why watch a review of something you already own? There's a lot of people that do.
Well, I think the market has changed mostly to please confirm for me that I made the right purchase, and if you don't, well, then you're obviously a shill. So I don't know what your experiences have been.
I've seen a few, and I've seen the whole fake when I do something that is in favor of one over the other.
And often in the same video.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know what? I've learned to understand that, you know what, people have their opinions, and I understand. You know, you may take it personally, but at the end of the day, you still have a very fast phone.
Right.
You know, and I feel like almost like the only answer to all of these things is to show them a really, really, really old phone that just barely boots up. Say, look, yours is better.
Well, someone actually made that mention of any game that can play Fortnite is a gaming phone. Tech30. Everybody who reviews phones play PUBG. They have to test Fortnite on it because it's a very demanding game.
Oh yeah, when you start seeing stutters in there, yeah.
I've tried many mid-range phones, but Fortnite can't even be installed on them.
It's an interesting dilemma, but yeah, no, that's one of the, speaking of Fortnite, I'm very happy to start seeing 60 frames per second.
Not on Razr.
Not Okay, so I'm...
do you think it might be something about the Kirin? Do you think the Kirin might give them something as a developer that you can't do on the Qualcomm? I think the Note 9
is also one of the other devices. It's a device specific. I think it's device specific. And I know from previous experience, basically, that you're able to unlock higher frame rates on certain games with root access, or if you have certain things like that. So it's not that it's not possible. It's just I think it's been limited by the app. And right now, 60 frames has been unlocked for the View 20 because I think there's a partnership going on between Honor. There's also like a special skin, and but I do know that the Note 9 is one of the other ones. So it's not Kirin only.
It's not chipset dependent.
And it's the 840. The 835 is going to be not the 35. 845 is supported. It's just I think it's going to take time. There's that whole wall of privacy for a little bit.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have expected that they would have made a bigger push with the 855. So with the new Qualcomm chipset, you have the perfect excuse to say,
and
look at this newer hardware drives
look at the
so
beauty,
much
look
faster.
at the frame rates,
hey,
look at where we're going. We're
that.
pushing the limit of what you can do with an OLED, or what is possible, and we'll see. I mean, I like the fact that we're able to get 60 consistent, because in the past, I think Kirin used to do a little bit better on the 970. On the 970 with what they call GPU turbo.
Yeah,
that turbo mode.
Yeah.
And it pumped out consistent 40 frames per second on like PUBG optimized games, basically. So it's not that it's impossible. It just has to be optimized on the manufacturer, on the SoC side, as well as on the game developer, because it's specific to the chipset, right?
Right.
And it's harder to develop. Then we go back into fragmentation, and that's a different discussion for a different day. But yeah, I'm happy to see that we're seeing some new things, and we should be able to see. I would be very, very sad if they only pushed to 60 on the Razer. They have more. They can.
They do. So one of the reasons why I also wanted to have this conversation with you is because of my recent experiences. Like, I haven't had the Razer that long. I've only had it for a couple weeks. But there are so many little quality of life improvements over the OnePlus 6T when we're talking about gaming as an entire industry.
Yeah.
So not just can I fire up a game, does the frame rate stay smooth, does performance stay manageable over a slightly longer gaming session if I'm into something like that. It's little things like, here, actually, I can try and show some of this off. Let me, I'll fire up Alien Blackout. It's not that fancy, but we can... see if we just break the whole thing here.
This is the new setup, so I'm enjoying this.
Well, again, it's kind of experimental, so I have no idea if this is going to work well. But this is something I can't do on a OnePlus 6. I can't do this on a OnePlus 6T. I can't connect a cable and share this gaming experience in any meaningful fashion. I can kind of work around with like a Chromecast and screen share to that and put that in my capture card.
That experience is so
flaky.
Yeah, no, it would hurt. It would hurt more. It would hurt the conversation if you go that way, because yeah, you're right.
Have you played Alien Blackout?
No.
Did you like Five Nights at Freddy's? Because it's basically Five Nights at Ripley's.
So this is basically just
it totally wigs me out.
Oh man, dude. No. I'll let you play.
No, please. Just take a look. So you can click on your map. I have to be careful. This cable is actually a little loose, so it might. But if you click down on the map, you get your map, and you can click on cameras, and then you have to tell people where to go and like how to solve puzzles. It's actually not a bad mobile game because there isn't any other. It's really short. Okay. It's a tough buy for $5, not because I think it's a bad game, but because it's not a lot of game for $5. But this is something that I shared a midnight stream. All the lights were red in my office just to make it look creepy, and I had a nice camera, and I could plug this in. And
find the scrubbers.
Then I went and did a direct Twitch stream, which again isn't something that I can do on a OnePlus 6T nearly as easily. Like I can kind of screen capture, but it doesn't work as well. And so I had this in, and it's got a little port, so you can charge.
Okay,
you
so
can
you're
charge
charging
while
at the
you
same
do.
time. Exactly, yeah.
That was dumb. So I fire up Lego Star Wars. I have this playing on the TV. So everything on this phone is basically working at max. And I should not have had it plugged in to charge. The back of the phone got up to 120 degrees.
Yeah, so you're putting it. That's definitely a load test right there when you're doing it that way, yeah.
But even for it getting that hot, like I suffered almost no performance hit.
I gotta learn how to do the
hour stream.
So how do you interact with the subject in this?
So I mean, when you tap on them, you can see those pulses.
There's
the life cycles.
Yeah.
So you tap on one of those, and it opens up your ability to tell them to like go or hide. And that red dot in the motion tracker is the alien that's gonna try and like eat them. So you have to like move them around. I actually think this is a really fun game. I
gotta spend some more time with it. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have wanted a proper Alien Isolation for PC sequel. So unfortunately,
I would love to connect that with the new Raiju controller that they announced at the same time with it, and just connect it, and so you can charge it from there and just get that full experience, or even just cast it like you're doing right now. It's like beautiful.
So that becomes a part of it too, though, where it's like there is cooling hardware in this.
Yeah,
it's disingenuous for a reviewer in this day and age to pick up a phone. Oh, it runs a little warm in the hand. Like if you've got a Note, it runs warm because it's supposed to get heat out of it as efficiently as possible. Same thing with ROG. Same thing with the Razer. So I'm reading these reviews like, oh, it feels warm. And you're like, don't just stop there, because when an iPhone feels warm, that means all of the internals are cooking.
And you put it away.
If a OnePlus starts feeling uncomfortably warm to the touch, there's nothing fancy about the back of that phone to try and extract heat in the interest of performance. So not only like do you have the amazing high refresh rate screen, it's there is design consideration, and I actually really like having big chunky forehead and chin bezels because how your thumbs interact with the screen.
It's in the right spot. It's.
How did you feel with the ROG phone having the taller aspect ratio?
So, because of the fact that the ROG phone felt a little bit more like the rest of the other devices that we have in 2018, at the end of 2018, getting into 2019, I liked it. It seemed to me like it was a little bit louder, but it lost some of the quality of the audio. Like we got louder sound, but we didn't get the same quality.
Okay. Because this overloads pretty. The Razer gets peaky and will distort if the audio is limited.
It depends on the experience on it. But when I compared the two, because I played PUBG on both of them, and I wanted to basically just get the experience. Just how does it feel? Does the audio come right? Can I hear the people coming from both directions? Where am I going to shoot?
Right.
And I think overall between the two, the ROG felt good. I like the fact that I didn't have to deal with the notch. That part I didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah. So gaming phones can't have notches.
It has to have the right. So basically.
Mandatory.
You don't go into a gaming phone expecting I want full screen and don't worry about it. We still have stereo sound. That sounds kind of no. Put the speakers.
Have you played Arc?
No, I want to.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance. Yeah.
So fire it up. But I was like, okay, like the iPhone, crazy powerful hardware, A12 Bionic. Brr, 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 brr. Part of your menu options are blocked by the unibrow, and you're like. Immediately from the load screen, you have taken me out of this experience. The immersiveness of having an all-screen display, except for this giant hatchet job at the top of the phone,
and we're starting to see some new designs with the whole punch hole camera, or some of the other things. And I agree, there's going to be some experimentation. The slider was one of them.
The only acceptable solution is the rear display.
I think
get rid of the selfie camera entirely.
So
go to a rear display.
So we're starting to talk about the Nubia now.
Yes, we are.
Nubia X. I like that. See how he does that? He changes the conversation. We're like back at CES already. I was like, as if we didn't really leave there. But I like their implementation. It took me a second when I saw it. I was like, where's the front-facing camera?
Get rid of it because it's garbage.
Yeah, no.
Why are we paying for this absolutely abysmal front-facing camera hardware? No phone has a good camera on the front anymore.
I would agree with you up to 95%, and I'm gonna stop at this guy.
Oh no!
Okay, no.
See,
I know. This is not the favorite phone. A lot of people would look at it and say, "Dude, this is no. What are you talking about?"
You're obviously a red shill.
For the last few weeks. If there's one redeeming factor that I found after holding this phone or using this phone for the last few weeks is the fact that the number one thing that always drives me crazy is that we get high megapixel count on most front-facing cameras. 20, 24, 16, whatever.
Like Oppo kind of led that charge.
But what's the maximum resolution you can shoot a video at? 1080p if you're lucky. 1080p 30.
Samsung will give you 2560.
Yeah. So, but very few manufacturers actually take advantage of the front-facing camera. And to be able to say that you can shoot, 1440p video on your front-facing camera and have decent audio come out of it is something to be said. So if you're going to have a camera, if you're going to use a camera on the front, make sure it's a good, not only hardware-wise, but add the software.
Well, that's what I loved about the Nubia was...
It just took that out. Yeah, no, they said
you still want manual mode? It's still all right there.
And it's we're not going to try.
The thing that killed me, it gutted me with the Axon M.
Okay.
So like ZTE has a pretty decent camera app, but they did the same thing where, you're in selfie mode. Let me just dumb this down, and you're like
trying to give you that whole beauty thing.
It's the same It's you had the perfect argument for why you should only have one camera on your phone. But I mean, aside from all that, if you had your druthers, would you want to take a photo of you and your son with this camera? Or with that camera,
hands down the back one.
Every single time.
That's how I take my pictures.
We shared a selfie on Twitter before we went live. What did I take that with? I took it with the wide rear camera, not the wide front camera, because it's garbage. front-facing cameras are garbage. End of discussion.
If you're going to implement it, make sure you give it the same quality as the back, and then almost nobody will spend that much time on it. That's the
well, and it's a space consideration too.
Yeah,
because then we're right back into, well, how do we fix the front of the phone? Do we cut a notch or a hole or a slider? And you're like, all of these things are way more complicated than just if the back of the phone is glass anyway, maybe make it useful.
Actually, that's what I was going to say, because if you look at it here, you could pretty much see yourself.
Right.
That's one benefit to glass, and especially when
but that's why I like the Thunder Purple is, I have the bumper case where I can still see the purple.
You can see different purple on your face.
The S refractions of light. It's so pretty.
It is very nice.
But you know what I would totally trade this for in a heartbeat is an OLED that I could do video calling and photo composition from really good cameras on the back of the phone.
We'll have to see what 2019 has to offer, but it seems like I think we're going for the punch hole camera.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially Samsung's leading the way there, so everyone's going to think that that's a good idea. But it's just further disruption to the screen, and you have to move things around in the UI.
If I had to compare that between that and the notch, I wouldn't mind going with the punch hole. I think if mostly because the only hardware I have to compare to right now is the one with the View 20. Mm-hmm. The punch hole is on the bottom left. When you're holding your phone and you're playing games, your thumbs, or your basically a good portion of your thumb blocks this camera. Yep. You're not blocking the entire view. You're getting the same thing. Now, we don't have stereo speakers, which is a different gripe for me. 2019, we're still not looking there. But from an experience of gaming, I like that over having a notch that sits in the middle of my left peripheral vision. That's my only thing. It's because that, as you said, it takes part of the UI. Not everybody accommodates for it because not every phone has a notch, right? As a developer, you're looking at basically what's the mass, what is 90% or 70% of your consumer base going to be. You're going to focus on that first, and then you'll focus on your higher end people, unless it's a partnered development like some of the high end ticket items. But
I just feel it's an obvious solution that I think so many companies have missed. And even when I was talking to the people at the Nubia booth at CES, it was like, well, I don't know who you are, so I don't want to have a conversation with you. And I'd be like, I just want to talk about philosophy. Well, we're not going to give these out to North America for reviews because it's a Chinese phone. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. So I'm scrolling through my phone and I'm showing him how like I'm doing everything on the V40. Like, here's video, here's all this. You guys are missing a huge conversation to prime people for this idea. Because, even right now, I was on Reddit this morning arguing with people that, like, building a slider mechanism to make your phone even less durable over time was somehow the better solution to keep a crappy front camera rather than incorporating an OLED into something that's already fragile. You'll crack it if you drop it. You might as well use that space. So I'm scrolling through, and he's like, oh, wait a minute, who's that in that one video? And you're like, oh, well, that's Bored at Work and SuperSaf. Suddenly, now I was worth talking to. And, oh, well, tell me about this and what's going on there.
Should have walked in with the picture.
Right, just like, hi, I know.
Have you met my friend?
People on the internet. But even them, like I was talking about, once he finally started listening to me, I was talking about, well, we should be having conversations about things like content. How many people are out there actually legitimately making vlogging and mobile video a part of a workflow that pays? Part of a career. It's like, oh, yeah, we should definitely be doing content. Like, how could you not have thought about content creation for your rear? You've completely missed everything that's a benefit about this phone.
Just using the actual the good camera on your phone. And
their PR guy like almost made it sound like it was a complete accident that they even tried this experiment. Like, you're the person representing this company at this booth.
Yeah.
And I just gave you like
the idea,
every marketing campaign that you should be using for the next year for free.
And hopefully they realize that. So I was sad to hear too that the Nubia X wasn't coming to the U.S. market. I think the only phone out of that booth that's coming to the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Red Magic Mars, which is their gaming phone. But the reason why I was taken by that, it was I've seen the Nubia X, and I've seen many people refer to it, but I had never noticed that nobody mentioned that it didn't have a front-facing camera. Like it wasn't in the discussion saying, "Oh, look at the phone," blah blah blah. But it's almost like you're supposed to look for it, because sometimes you're watching a video, it's on a phone. The real estate is limited. You're not going to notice small details like there's no punch hole, there's no notch or whatever. And when I held it in my hand, and I'm like, "Where is the front-facing camera?" And then I flipped it over, and I'm like,
"Right,
the back display makes sense now."
But according to like guys on our Android on Reddit, that like who would ever, I mean, like, but how could I use it doesn't have a front-facing camera. Like, I would have to do this?
It's an experience, I would say.
Who could do that?
Can you do two things while you're taking a front-facing camera picture? No.
But no, I can't. Oh, do you know how hard that was? Oh my gosh, this is impossible.
But the picture looks better.
So I've been practicing that for hours, so I could do that as seamless. I mean, like Neil deGrasse Tyson over here with his like phone ninjutsu.
I was about to
so
say,
that he can like use his phone without a case. That's what it takes is a diligent commitment to training to get to this camera.
I love the wide-angle lens on the back of the Mate 20 Pro.
Oh, awesome!
I was
wide angle is mandatory.
It went up. We were snowboarding. We were up in Heavenly. We were sitting there, and I'm trying to take pictures with the front. I'm like, this thing just does not look right. Flipped it over. Got used to the whole using the volume rocker. You set it up. You take a picture, and you're like.
And it's the shotgun blast, man. You don't even have to like.
No. It's just.
Oh, what's my composition? You're like you do that, you're still in frame. You do that, you're still in frame. I
can do this, and I'm still in frame.
The amazing vacation like landscape that I want in the back of my photo, and it's awesome. It's perfect.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And why I've been such a proponent for like the LG cameras too.
Exactly. No. LG. So that's what I loved about LG. And speaking of differentiator, that was one thing that was with the ROG and the Razr. I like the wide-angle lens on the ROG. I like that implementation. When I saw that at IFA, I thought it was like, wow, they're listening. This is good. And I would have loved to have that on the Razr. The Razr still has a good. I mean, we have telephoto. It's not a bad idea. I think
the zoom lens isn't good.
You need wide.
Wide is way
better. Give us wide and standard focal length, and I think people will be.
Because also, I mean, like the second you're in indoor lighting, let alone low light, just if you're in indoor lighting, you're probably not using the zoom sensor anyway.
No.
I have a great photo. I was trying to do a macro shot on the iPhone XS. And I had all 6 of my studio lights, 2 LED panels, and a little hotspot, a LumaCube.
A LumaCube, I have one of those. Yeah.
All on that baseball.
Okay.
And the iPhone still took the photo from the main camera sensor in zoom mode. So like, it doesn't really exist. And now, like, their portrait mode is just from the main sensor cropped to look like it's from the zoom sensor. Like, we're not really getting anything for this hardware, and especially at night, you don't want to take photos from a tiny little zoom sensor anyway.
No. You want to
go wide.
Go wide as best as you can, and get whatever best composition you can get, as much light as you can get. And try to go in pro mode. Try not to shoot at night when you're using standard auto mode. Auto mode is not going to be your friend. Unless you have night sight or night mode or whatever night implementation we have here, like on the Huawei devices, Pixel devices, those are great.
Yeah, the Huawei's night mode is fine. Like, it's good.
It's pretty decent.
Solid.
I mean, I didn't get the magic effect that I got out of the night sight when I saw Pixel. But when I first used Pixel, the first time night sight came out, I was like, wow.
See, the thing that bothers me about that
depends
is...
I know where you're going.
Okay.
I know where you're going. I was watching your show.
Go on.
No, so it depends on the way. I think it's a time and place. And not everybody wants to be able to see daytime pictures at night. You're right. I watch his shows, so I kind of saw the question coming.
Actually, I've got an even nicer little circumvent for you there. It's less that. So I'm willing to give I want the hyper bright, hyper color effect. Okay. So I like shooting really, really dark, crunchy, grainy photos. But let's go with you. Let's say you really do want that effect. We're basically talking about a fancy HDR processing mode, right?
and extended exposure. You're just trying to get in as much light as you can.
And using very, very fancy software algorithm to try and minimize for the natural shake. It's pulling from the gyro.
And compensate and sharpening.
All of this is great. I wish there were more tech reviewer nuance in this conversation, because I still feel you will get a better result if you expose for the brightest part of your frame, capture a raw image, and then do an HDR style processing off of one exposure, which will capture way faster than how you have to hold the phone steady when you're in any kind of long exposure or night sight mode.
But are you still considering that you're trying to do that and do maybe post processing on that image, or
you have to edit?
Yeah, when
but the photo is going to be better,
yes,
faster, crisper, way less prone to artifacting or software algorithm messing.
Yeah.
Because even for being able to hold fairly still for a photo, I have a whole collection of night sight photos that came out blurry or had like a weird artifact where Google stitched together a part of something that doesn't work out well.
Yeah, no, it's not meant for moving subjects by any means. It's intended for a standstill, landscape maybe, depending on the your subject has to be basically still.
And my night selfie, way better just as a standard photo with a very fast shutter actuation.
It doesn't do, no.
Way better than when I got a similar shot with night sight.
HDR is not bad. I mean,
HDR is super bad.
You
could do better.
You could do better, but the conversation goes into between two different parties, right? You have the general user that will generally want to be able to point, shoot, share. And I feel like that's where the 90% proof where they're shooting for. They want to be able to make our phones very, very auto mode. Manufacturers don't want you to be, they'll give you pro mode.
Totally.
But 90% of the time they realize that when you fire up your camera, it never goes back to pro. It stays in auto, right? So that's the default manufacturer setting. And I feel like for what they offer you, HDR performs well. When I compare the standard image with HDR, even on the Pixel, comparing that to night sight, they're not that far off. It's not so bad that you would like, oh my God, I just saved my life.
Right.
I think the experience is definitely augmented. I think the hardware is good. I think the algorithm that Google is implementing there with the learning process.
It's impressive software. I'm not saying it's not impressive software.
They've done.
But what I'm saying is, for all of our ability to pontificate on that from the tech reviewer and enthusiast space, there's this huge glaring omission in the conversation that this is not magic, and that there are better solutions if you do care about image fidelity. Exactly. It's why I've gotten real cranky about even the phrase. I'm gonna have to tag you on this, TK. I'm gonna have to take you down. I have to take it downtown.
Take it downtown. Okay.
Is the idea of a general consumer. There is no such thing as a general consumer. There is a huge spectrum of consumers that have all accepted that the smartphone is a commodity and we need to have one.
Yeah.
But each one of them has their own various gradation of needs, wants, and balancing that against price.
And I think
so
that's
if we
where
accept that,
yeah,
then how many people aspire to get likes and shares on Twitter and Instagram photos?
Yeah.
Because if that's something that you care about, we all do. We're all in this game of producing content, making things. We like that validation. That's why the service even exists in the first place.
Yeah.
You will not get that with a single button press. I took one photo and that's what I shared. No one does that.
No.
And no one who's successful in any kind of social media endeavor
does that.
No. For one photo, I'd probably take 5 or 6 shots just to get something right in the composition that I want it to be, or maybe the wind's blowing, the flower's like slightly out of focus. No one does this supposed general consumer, I just push the shutter once and then I share it directly to Facebook. That doesn't happen, and so many more people are totally willing to engage with filters or the editing. Think about the granular editing that you can do in the Instagram app. That completely flies in the face of the idea that people can't handle post-processing. You have the full suite of
as soon as you share
brightness and color and hue and tone and clarity, contrast, sharpening, everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Instagram realizes that that's something that a significant enough number of consumers are willing to do, that the idea... Well, no, it's just all the auto awesome. All pixel, it's just a pixel. You just want one auto photo. That doesn't exist.
Well, the one auto photo is also Pixel's advertised basically that it takes multiple images before it finds the right one that everybody's looking at. There's machine learning in that.
But even then, so many people are going to take multiple shots with the Pixel taking multiple bursts
always going to
get the photo that they want.
The general...
Do it. Say it. Say general consumer. Say it. Say general consumer one more time, TK.
I was going to say general user, but okay. It's the same thing. From a general... So to your point, you're right. I think smartphones are no longer this fancy thing that people don't need or don't use or don't even consider. The reality of the matter is that now everybody has a smartphone. Almost very few people that have non-smartphones, and those are actually kind of unique. And I've reviewed a few for Verizon where they were basically clamshell style phones that were more durable and they work great. What most of the usage that I've seen outside of our, because I want to say there's the younger generation, then you get the community that enjoy pushing things to the limit. I mean, you know, you want more out of your phone. And I think that's really where XDA and where development comes in. We've always wanted to take whatever we got, and we were never happy with what we got. We want to push it more. We want to give it a higher frame rate. We want to be able to extend the battery, custom kernels, custom ROMs, just going in there and fixing things.
And get around manufacturer roadblocks.
Yes, and those are the things that I always appreciated about the community that we had there. And I felt like that is the community that wants these things. But then when I flip it over, and I've done my share of consulting, and I've also done things where I've gone to help people work with their devices. An example would go also is, you know, our parents, our young ones, other people that are, they're getting into the experience, but they're not knee deep into it the way we are.
See, but my family is exactly the wrong example for that. Well, my grandmother is like running around with an iPad, FaceTiming people, screenshotting stuff when she's like, I found on this genealogy site some stuff about your ancestors. So I did a series of screenshots so you could read up on it. And she shared that to me in a cloud storage because it was way too many to email. So again, she's in her, she's going to be turning 80.
But what I meant to say there is
so even then
it depends on the market. Yeah, it's the market. That's what I'm referring to when I say general user or general consumer.
But what I'm saying is that is a fallacy because the most popular tools that the market has access for build those experiences, the spectrum of experiences into their products because they know there isn't one user.
No, and
it's like the death of Vine. Vine was a one-button app.
Yeah,
you can replicate
video,
that anywhere. And Instagram took it, gave us more time, then started expanding on it because the little 10-second video clip isn't enough. So you have other types of real-time
TV too.
And then they started ripping off Snapchat. And why? Because they know that there's a spectrum of users who have different needs and wants across the entirety of their platform. Enough to build that in. They didn't throw it off to another app.
No.
They didn't say, oh, well, if you have special concerns, go and edit somewhere else and then come back.
You're right. I think
I think tech reviewers are falling into this trap of I'm only going to cover the lowest common denominator because that's the easiest for me so that I can spend way more time giving you pretty cinematic shots because that takes way longer.
But the thing is, so the cinematic shots or the images that you get out of these cameras.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm going to use my super fancy camera to take a panning shot of me holding a glass rectangle rather than spending that time saying, well, for a variety of different consumers, you might have these needs and you can do this. I totally appreciate the argument. If we want to make the argument that consumers don't want to mess with photography terms.
It's our mid-roll of ASMR.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Let me for you guys, just in case you want
Let me get this up into the microphone so you can hear all of the bubbles.
Yeah.
The bubbles.
I will totally go with someone who says they don't want to learn about the math of aperture to shutter speed to ISO in the photography triangle of exposure. Fine. I will go with them and say that there is a majority of people who don't want that.
Yeah.
But to say that people don't edit or to say that people don't augment their photos or that somehow the only proper answer is to say auto awesome from a pixel is the camera that people should use when it's obviously not.
No.
The reality of a majority of consumers engaging in a practice where they are very picky about the photos they choose. They're very selective about how they share them. And then almost no photo gets uploaded without some type of editing or consideration.
The sharing experience that you're referring to, and you kind of touched base a little bit when you talked about your grandma, it's that family sharing that I was also talking about. It wasn't just necessarily Instagram, because when you're sharing an image with your family, let's say you took a good picture of your daughter or I took a picture of my son, and I'm sending it to my wife. I'm not putting it in Lightroom and basically going in there and or Photoshop to let me beautify it. I took that image and I sent it over. There's a good number of those images that never get shared publicly. Those are the ones that you keep. Those are the memories when you're sitting there down the road looking at things. Those are the images you're looking at. Auto Awesome, if you're looking at it within the Google Photo app, probably either gets an option there. You'll see it. You can apply it. It helps. It's not the best situation, but those are the images that are generally unedited. They sit in there, whatever original format you took.
Right, but the part of the argument that I would make against that is, did you just take the one photo and only share the one image? And I don't think most people do that. Again, there's even a self-selection in I didn't get the composition that I wanted.
So that's
I didn't
the thing.
get
That's
the setup
composition.
that I wanted.
That's not hardware, though. You have to look at you have to talk about the conversation in two different parts. The camera is a tool for the content creator.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the tech reviewer argument is, you're going to pick it up and you're going to push the button.
That's not.
They're trying to make it sound like that's all you need to do.
It's not a point to it, walk away, push the or have auto 5 second thing, it'll take a great picture. You're right. It takes a lot of work. It takes both on the creator, on the hardware, and on whatever platform you decide to share for things to look great. Are we getting better at creating content that looks good, decent with AutoAwesome? Some may say yes, some may say no. But at the end of the day, if you want something to share, you want to basically make something. If you're trying to go for those likes, you're trying to go for a good image that when you look at it, you're like, wow, that looks nice. You have to process it. There's no question about that. You have to do some type of processing.
Because even the family photos that I'm definitely not, like emblematic of a majority of the consumer base, but even when I share in the family bucket, you're like, oh, you know what, this photo looks nice, but it's going to look way better if I just desaturate it and make it a black and white photo or something like that. So
depends on
even then,
but it goes back to your skill, right? You're able to see that and you realize that this image could benefit from it.
And my argument is way more people than tech reviewers will acknowledge are like me.
Okay, well, that's true. No, I agree. There is no.
The second I fire up my Instagram feed, I followed hundreds of people, many of them with maybe a couple dozen followers, who are doing advanced photo and composition, cropping, desaturation, contrast,
the tools
all built directly in either from their app, or maybe they're using something else. Maybe they are using like Mobile Lightroom or Snapseed or something like that.
Snapseed is actually pretty decent.
Right?
I like that tool, yeah.
So those are people that I would put in the category of does not give an F about the photography mechanics of the manual mode and doing all of the math, but they are still still editing, cropping and presenting to a much higher tier than this fake conversation about the auto mode's garbage and people only ever use the auto mode because that's all you ever use. And you're like, that's not true. The entire chain of from where you were to the environment, to the light, to capturing the image, to the hardware, to the software, to the platform that you upload it to is the entire conversation. And if you can't acknowledge
you have to be able to acknowledge the entire. Yeah, you're right. Nope,
I'm correct. Back to gaming phones.
On that.
As we wrap this up, because you've got to get going here.
It's never a straight conversation with them. We always start somewhere. And
I had more games that we were going to try and play through, but that's
well. No, speaking of games, what kind of games do you play? Because I'm more of the first-person shooter type style game, racing games, things that give me just kind of. Like a quick adrenaline rush, just to get justification. Because I tend to play games in between things. Like when I'm waiting my son for karate and stuff like
that. I'm kind of a man without a ship right now.
Okay.
Because I finally completely weaned myself off of Marvel Future Fight.
Okay.
I had a great alliance.
That was one of your
And the guys in my alliance all kind of kept going off to go play other games because every update was just another like punch in the genitals, like give us way more money for an OP meta that doesn't really add anything to any of it. I mean, I've got Dark Phoenix. She beats every game mode. You're not giving me any new challenges, but you're charging hundreds of dollars in microtransactions if you want to be on the meta, right? So that's not fun anymore. I like action RPGs, and I think that's a good setup for mobile. One of the games that I'm playing right now is Eternium, which has some really obnoxious like paywall cooldown clock mechanics, but really short bursts of
so it's a little bit annoying, but not
dungeon crawling.
Not enough to.
I haven't run into a roadblock yet. I'm leveling up. I'm improving. I'm getting good loot. There are some loot crates that you pay crystals to unlock, but so far I haven't needed that equipment. So this has been a good I'm on the exercise bike kind of a game. So that's one I've been kind of playing a little bit more of. I liked Alien Blackout. I did not like Five Nights at Freddy's because that just stressed me way out. But Alien Blackout having the tie-in with Alien Isolation, which I adored. Alien Isolation.
I like that.
Was a fun throwback. The other one that I just started, and it was in preview. I've got to find it because I have way too many games. I also went back and started playing Lego Star Wars because the Android port is really good. Is Star Combat. So if you like do you like piloting? Do you like?
I haven't done a lot of piloting. I've been down the wormhole of basically Fortnite and PUBG lately.
So this is still in beta, and I fear that this will get wrecked by microtransactions.
Okay.
That it will become one of those like pay to win.
So in beta, right now everything is free.
But in beta, everything is kind of Wild West.
Okay.
I mean, there are still pay mechanics built in, but right now everything is sort of wide open. I really like. And I got to get back in. You can see my rank is super, super low. But let me throw this to you. I really like the mechanics on how you pilot the ship.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So you see where that little your targeting vestule goes, and then your throttle controls feel very Wing Commander-y, which I love. But there's also like an auto shoot mechanic, so it's really about you navigating around in a very mobile friendly kind of way. And it looks like you're gonna get me killed and wreck all my stats, but that's fine. That's fine.
It's okay.
That's okay. We're sharing. We're friends. We're friends, even though I don't have the RGB on the back of the phone.
I like the display. I mean, it's just when you look at it, man. Just
oh yeah. I mean, the Razer phone's flipping gorgeous, and the fact that you can share a higher quality stream of this because of support for things like HDMI out are kind of a big deal. So